Hey everyone, Tony Sonic here. I'm back in America and ready to start a new year of content. Sorry I haven't been in touch recently. I've been under the weather for a few days, and I'm still having these coughing fits right now, but I feel good enough to start my first video of 2023. That is, if you don't count the video I did on the second channel. Also, I don't have a script for this, just to keep it like a genuine vlog, so forgive me if I ramble because I don't work that well without a script, but I just want this to feel like genuine talk. Anyways, to start off with the flight there, we had to take 3 flights to 3 separate places. The first flight was alright, we made it to them on time. Takeoff was a bit rough for me since it was a very long time since I last flew. But I still made it through regardless. The second flight though, oh boy. Okay, so when we landed in Minnesota, it was like a blizzard. It was just white everywhere. And as a result, they had delayed our flight for about 4 hours just so they could de-ice everything. I wasn't complaining too much since I had my Switch and a plug nearby, so I was doing perfectly fine, but it was pretty bad for the rest of my family. But anyways, we boarded the flight nonetheless, and we took off and watched a couple of movies and ate dinner. That wasn't too great, but the dinner wasn't too great, but it was still serviceable. Sleeping on the plane though, that's impossible. Ever slept on a plane before? No, I envy you. Anyways, we landed, we decided to rest a few just to like recuperate. We had lunch since we were in a completely different time zone. Got new tickets to we got the new tickets before lunch because we had to find a new flight. But anyway, we did all that. We waited for boarding, and like I kept falling asleep as I was standing up. Like I had to constantly walk around and think about anything in order to keep myself from falling asleep. It was that absurdly unbearable. But in any case, we boarded the flight. I fell asleep almost immediately on the plane. Don't know how I did that, but somehow I did. Almost had a small panic attack when I woke up. But thankfully there was this nice guy next to me who was able to calm me down. After that flight, we went through customs, and then a friend of my parents helped out with the flight, with the luggage, and drove us to the house. And I gotta say, houses in Europe are small. Like I know, not every house is gonna be like big or anything, but the rooms in there, they were pretty tightly fit. Like this room is like bigger than most of the rooms in the house. Like there was one other room that I think matched this size, but other than that, that's all the bedrooms and normal rooms were fairly small for it. And I quickly had to learn the differences between Europe lifestyle and American lifestyle. For one, my parents did not have a dryer. They had a washing machine, but no dryer, which means we had to air dry all of our clothes, which left them not very fluffy. It wasn't very comfortable, but it was living. The second thing is the plugs in the outlets in Europe are completely different. Like they're 3-pronged and spread wide apart. Right, so I had to use an adapter for all my American tech, which was all of it. And there's also a light switch, well, not really light, a switch on each outlet, and you gotta turn it on before plugging stuff in, which was easy enough. On my first day there, my parents took me to the high street, which is just a street where there's a bunch of places to go to. There's a library, like a coffee shop, or a couple restaurants here and there, a small store, or all that jazz, just to get me acquainted with living in Europe. And while I was there, I found out from my dad that one of the many different British terms, turns out you can't say quite good when talking about how good someone's food is. because apparently, and this is only applicable to the food, it only applies to food, no other thing. If you say something is quite good, you're saying it's not as good as you thought it'd be, which is kind of an insult. So you're not allowed to say that, which is so weird because it doesn't apply to anything else. I also found out that certain foods weren't available in Europe, which was fine. I could adapt easily enough. Anyways, as for notable things that happened, not a whole lot. We didn't really do a whole lot in Europe until my grandparents got there. But there, most days we were just spending at home, or just living. And sometimes, although one thing that did bother me is that when we went to church and other places, we didn't have a car, so we had to walk and take the public transport system there. I didn't really like that at first, and only kind of got used to it by the time I was able to leave. One especially noteworthy thing that happened, we went to a German Christmas festival in the city square, and it was pretty fun. There were a bunch of these wooden house stands that had all types of food and a small carousel. So, and there were sausages that were like this long. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. They were legitimately this long. Probably longer. My dad had one of those, but I didn't. I knew I could never stomach that. I did have a big pretzel though, and that was pretty good. And a small mug of hot cocoa. As well as a chocolate covered marshmallow, but that wasn't very good. No disrespect to the person who made it, I just don't like marshmallows that often. But aside from that, it wasn't really that eventful until my grandparents got there. And when they did get there, we started to do some sightseeing. The first place we went to was a castle in Europe, which my family really enjoyed. They thought all the architecture was cool and all the weapons and such. Me though, no disrespect to anyone who likes that, I just wasn't really in the mood. Like, we had to wake up extremely early to get out there, and I'm not a early morning person in the slightest, so I was kind of grumpy the whole time. But it was fine. Nothing amazing in my opinion, just fine. But the most notable thing that happened, we went to London for a couple days. And while the ride there was tough, it was still manageable enough. A few hour train rides and a couple of miles of walking. And honestly, the apartment was probably the worst part because it was incredibly small. And when we went in there, it legit smelled like someone was smoking in there. Like someone clearly had just been in there smoking something. I don't know what it was, but someone was smoking something. We also had to split like a pair mattresses, which wasn't very comfortable because the mattresses weren't really that comfortable, and split apart pillows. Some of us had to sleep on, like I had to sleep on the mattress on the floor, and so did my siblings, which wasn't very comfortable. The following day was pretty cool because we got to explore London or walk around London. We arrived at Buckingham Palace. Yes, we got to see Buckingham Palace, and right as we arrived, they were performing the changing of the guard, which was so cool and so convenient that we just stood there and watched it all happen. It was really cool to see the guards march around and hear the music play. That was a really cool convenience. After the changing of the guard, we got to see Big Ben, and after a lot more walking. And interesting fact about Big Ben, the clock tower is not what's called Big Ben. It's the bell inside the clock tower. The actual tower itself is called Elizabeth Tower, and I forget what the rest of it is called, that it's connected to is called, but interesting fact. We also got to hear Big Ben chime, though it was only once since it was only 1 o'clock, but hearing Big Ben's chimes in real life, that got me giddy. That really did. Anyways, we went across to Westminster Abbey. Got to hear those bells go off, though it did get a little annoying, just a little bit. But it was still neat. But after a bit more walking around, we had dinner somewhere, I don't really remember. But Anyways, after that, we went to go see where the TV show Sherlock, if you've seen that with Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, I think that's his name, I don't know. We got to see where that was filmed, which was pretty neat. I did like the show a lot, so it was neat seeing where it was filmed. But that was it for the day. We went back to the apartment, we just sort of did whatever, and yeah. The second day we went to see the Tower of London, which was pretty cool, I guess. We got to see all these huge stacks of armor that I went up to like the waist. I'm a pretty tall guy myself, so but it was pretty neat seeing all the history. Not particularly amazing, but I definitely appreciated it. And after that, we just went back home. It took like a couple hours. I mean, we really didn't want to stay in the apartment again, so we went on home. After that was the plane flight home, which wasn't particularly pleasant. Like, the first one was fine and all, but the second one we had to sit for an hour and a half waiting for them to fix one of the handles on the cargo hold. And then when we took off, it was just long and boring and just not very pleasant. Due to the delay, we had to bolt to get another flight home, and then bolt to the other flight that would take us to North Carolina, and then take us all the way home. It was not pleasant in the slightest, but I was happy to be home after that. Overall, I had a very good time in England. I respect a lot of things about it, even though some things clearly don't make sense. Like, another thing I forgot to mention, hot dog buns are cut across the top instead of across the side, which I swear they did just because they wanted to. No rhyme or reason, just because. But I still respect a lot about it. And before I wrap up this video, I want to share two things with you. One are my other Christmas presents. I shared with you in the post a robot, which is now in pieces due to travel. But I figured I may as well show you guys more Christmas presents. The first one I have here is Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. I haven't played that much of it, but I'm looking forward to playing it as soon as I finish Kingdom Battle. A physical copy of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I'm really happy to add this to my collection of Sonic memorabilia. Gotham Knights, which I've heard is a not particularly well received game, but I asked for it because I like the Arkham games, so may as well give it a shot. And this just came in the mail. This one was delayed. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. I have every single Five Nights at Freddy's game except for FNAF AR and FNAF World, but I don't really count those personally. I'm sure fans probably do, but I personally don't. And if you're wondering how I got FNAF Help Wanted, it's not on console, it's the VR version. Because my final and biggest Christmas present that I got was a MetaQuest 2 VR headset. I love this thing so much. I already have like 3 games on it, and it is amazing, like simply amazing. I love this thing so much, and I can't wait to play with it some more. Thank you, Grandma Alice, who got this for me. Thank you so much. I love it. It's money well spent. That's almost the end of the video. I do have one more thing I'd like to discuss, and it's pretty important. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I almost don't want to do it, but something's telling me that I probably should. The Undertale video is canceled. The reason why is, well, various things in my life that I'd rather not disclose have seriously drained my motivation to do it. So I've decided that I'd be better off if I just didn't do it at all. It probably wouldn't be a good idea if I did do it with all the things that are going on. But I do still plan to do a 2,000 subscriber special, and that is a new series on my channel that is going to be a fusion of the everything great about and everything wrong with formats that I like to call everything right and wrong with. I'm not the first person to do this. I've seen a couple of other people do it, but I figured I may as well throw my own spin on the formula, quote-unquote formula. I hope you all are excited for that new series. I do want to make it a mainstay on my channel, and I've already got the first episode planned. What's that first episode, you may ask? Well, let me introduce the real 2,000 subscriber special.